Thank you very much, Jake. We appreciate you guys over here at XLNC Broadcasting. My name is Mitt, and welcome to this week's light testing round. We're going to bring you some action-packed games, but first, we need to introduce you to these two amazing squads that we have lined up for you guys, ready to battle it out on the Rift for your viewing entertainment. So, Ravishing, who do we have lined up tonight?
Oh, we have just an absolutely fantabulous Glacial Blue going up against the saucy God Squad, man. It's gonna be an absolutely fantastic game. Now we know Glacial Blue has been, they are a bit newer to the overall excellency reign, but from what we've seen, what we've seen so far, though, they've been a fantastic team and quite dominant on the Rift. And what can you tell me about their opponents here, Mid?
So the God Squad, led by C9 World Champ, he's been, as far as I know, coaching squads in multiple divisions. So it's very cool to see him fielding up one of the lower tier squads here in gold in the lightweight testing grounds, I suppose. But I've seen him and his squad in very many different divisions. He's been kind of a staple for excellency tournaments for a while here, and he's always put forth a pretty, at worst, solid performance. At best, very, very dominant, which is what we're seeing right now, especially here in the light. So, two powerhouse teams, Glacial going 3-0 last week up against God Squad, who, a pretty staple household name around excellency. So we're going to see if the upstarts in Glacial can, stamp their, let us know that it wasn't just a fluke last week and really stick it to God Squad here.
Of course, so a fluke is something that we do not want to see. And one of the main things, which I remember we were talking about before, as you got on the broadcast here, Mitt, was considering the overall elo of the teams, you definitely want to see much more team play, right? Which I believe we're discussing. We definitely want to see them play around themselves, and then more so the star players.
Yeah, especially since we are in a lower elo, so we're in like low gold. And so, your brain immediately goes, we're in all ranges of gold, sorry, not just low gold. So low platinum, probably mid gold.
Mm-hmm.
So your brain immediately thinks, okay, well, gold is only like the top 30% of players, which is a huge margin, of course. So you get all the variety of skill in gold. So you're thinking, okay, what exactly are we expecting to see here? When we watch, Diamond League teams, Platinum League teams that can kind of fall apart in terms of teamwork, and you're kind of watching them and going, like, what is happening here? But you start to think, when these organizations are getting together and putting themselves together, and you've got a bunch of gold players, maybe they don't quite have the big egos that a lot of these diamond players have gotten by reaching, top 2% in North America or whatever it is now. And so maybe they're more willing to mesh together as a team, and then maybe we'll see more team play. Maybe not the most high skill capped, crazy Twitch mechanics, but more macro knowledge, game sense. We'll see what these coaches have been able to do with these lower tiered players. That's what I'm excited to see, what they've managed to put together in this amount of time.
Definitely so. But before we throw over the casters, let's get into our predictions here, Mike. What are you thinking we'll see? What will be the result of our first game of the night?
So I'm thinking personally, even though Glacial was 3-0 last week, I'm still thinking that God Squad's going to take it. I think that they have more experience here in the amateur scene. They've got a lot of games under their belts. And, C9 World Champ, he's a seasoned veteran when it comes to amateur competitive League of Legends. So I'm thinking that experience is going to take it, and God Squad's going to go the distance.
Okay, well, you know what? I want to go ahead and counter you on that, sir. I'm thinking, I'll do the Glacial guys. They're looking extremely strong, especially in these past few games. And I think they've been known for some upsets. Although God Squad is a fantastic team, I think today will be Glacial's time to shine. But that's just me, though. But that's been everything for us so far. The analysts, predictions. But let's see in the chat what you guys want to see. With that being said, Jake, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Mitt and Ravishing, you guys are absolutely awesome. We got a little bit of counter picking there. We had on each side kind of favoring one. Mitt saying that God Squad's going to take the win, as well as Ravishing saying that he thinks the Glacial Galaxy are going to come in. The pro draft is now up on your screen and should be going live right now. I'm joined by Diatropa. Welcome, Diatropa. You have been a staple yourself here at Excellency the last couple of weeks, and you seem to really be enjoying analyzing these lightweight teams. You did some research earlier today. You've seen these teams play before. As we get into the pro draft, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, obviously the Alawi ban is something that I was looking for coming into this game. Glacial, they showed us in the first week that I saw them at the tournament that they could really push the strength of an Alawi and could play around that. And beyond that, I'm kind of looking at each of these teams to see what players they choose to play around. We saw God Squad's mid laner be a really key part of how they succeeded last week. And then out of Glacial, I feel like leaving the mid laner to be more supportive has been their key to success. And so I'm curious to see what kind of things that they choose to emphasize in draft and what strengths we'll be looking for, because all of these players individually have been quite strong.
Yeah, it's one of those things that both teams really coming into this, these are why these teams are the top dog in the lightweight scene, right? There are some other contenders which we don't want to ignore. We definitely still have Bar Esports Academy in our sights. They did a fantastic job in week number 1, actually won it, and were very successful with that, but it had some moments in which they struggled as well. A quick shout out to the other teams that are playing tonight: Osiris, OGD, Merciless, Blue Saber, Wolves, FSU Black, and Glitch Guardians. Unfortunately, we probably will not be able to broadcast all of these teams. We would love to be able to do so, and we're going to try to get some more teams in for next game to showcase more of these players and the amazing job that they do. But in this particular matchup, these are kind of champions versus champions lightweight scene. Particularly what I'm seeing is that these mid laners from both teams have a surprising amount of power in their individual ability to hold their own. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this correctly. All right, let me start this all over again. Okay, if you'll bear with me. Top lane is an island, but it's an island filled with super OP champions like Garen's, like Ornn's, like even the Malphite. There's just a lot of power individually from the top lane. And then bottom lane, a lot of ADCs, especially when you're looking at the 200 Years of Felios and even Ezreal's after he gets 2 item spikes, are incredibly powerful as well. So oftentimes, unless you're on the mega meta champions like a Syndra in the mid lane can fairly be overlooked. But we looked at Zizvek's Cassiopeia last week. Neptune, she had an amazing Zyra 2 weeks ago, right? These players are players that individually, mechanically, can not only stand on their own 2 feet in the mid lane, but they are sometimes the ones that are leading their team in charge and making kills and making plays.
Yeah, they have almost different styles in the way that they approach enabling their team and giving them win conditions. But you're right that they're both extremely powerful mid laners. I do want to draw attention to Glacial's draft here, just at the beginning with the Morgana, Ashe, and Braum lock-ins. I think that drawing attention to the way in which this team drafts, they might be putting themselves at a little bit of a disadvantage here, revealing that the Morgana is going into the mid lane, where realistically, if you've done your research, you can see that. But by giving away that now you've locked in your Braum to go with the Ashe, you've revealed 3 lanes that your enemy can now counterpick and pick against. And so I'm a little bit concerned that maybe they're a little bit too focused on the champions and not the actual strategy, the evolving comps.
Yep. So now we're into the second pick phase, because we've just been kind of rushing through this pro draft pick and ban. Do note really quickly that red spot that you're seeing on the screen wasn't a Felios ban, so that he was taken away from that bottom side ADC. And as usual, we get a lot of support in ADCs in the early portion of the pick and ban, and then are bouncing our way into that mid and top kind of role, or jungle and top roles respectively. Now, Karthus has been locked in by God Squad, most likely for the mid lane, but can be flexed into the jungle, though most people don't want to take him. He was recently heavily buffed, so I'm really excited to see him playing for God Squad. Most likely, I'm expecting Zizvek to pick up the Karthus.
Yeah, I have almost the opposite expectation, so we'll have to see which direction it goes in, because Karthus jungle can be so strong, and it'll enable the carry in Zizvek to be able to pick up perhaps an AD assassin, which would be a really interesting way to kind of snowball with the side lanes, and let Karthus kind of lane kingdom his own jungle and take them into that late game. But speaking of lane kingdom, Nasus being picked there is not something that we see too often, especially at higher levels and coordinated levels of play, so it might be they have something prepared for this pick.
Yeah, a super tank front line, but this could also be a Nasus jungle. There is the possibility of a Volibear jungle, though he does get thrown into the top lane, I feel, a little more often than the jungle. But the front line of Glacial, super tanky, Braum, Nasus, Volibear, all just running you down, followed up by that Ashe being kind of that main carry with the Morgana support. I am just concerned that Nasus, with very, very little ability to escape, is going to struggle if he is in that top lane by himself, especially when you have things like the Wall of Pain from the Karthus coming in, that it is with that Zed locked in, looking like you were right, your Mag Cute will be taking and piloting that Karthus in the jungle.
Fascinating. Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting comp. Speaking of the two bruisers from Glacial as well, where now Lethality Varus is almost discouraged because you don't have that much ability to chew through the tanks with the AD carry if you do choose to go that lethality direction. That Nasus and Volibear almost incentivize him to go a weaker build as well. And so we'll see if God Squad, they're looking like they're almost more of a snowball-y comp now that they don't necessarily have the insurance of the constant attack speed.
Yep, and it's kind of one of those things, once you start rolling, you're talking about the snowball, Karthus ultimates coming down, you pick up 1 kill, next time you ult, you pick up 2, next time you ult, you pick up 4, and then it's pentakills from then on out, unless you are the tankiest of tanky members. We are into the official client picks and bans between the two teams, so you'll see the same things coming out from both sides, just gives us a little bit more opportunity to kind of talk through these compositions, especially when you're looking at Glacial, you're saying, hey, it's most likely that Braum's going to be in that bot lane, protective measure, so the unbreakable wall against the Lulu and Varus, but that means Morgana mid lane matched up against Zed.
Yeah, I mean, Morgana is a really interesting neutralizing lane, but I do think that's a lane that she loses and will enable Zed to start roaming around the map. The other thing that I want to bring up about God Squad is that in their previous games they played, especially last week when we got to see them a lot, it was demonstrated they have a really good knowledge of what their actual item spikes mean. They're really good at knowing exactly when their champions come online and being able to push those advantages. So especially using champions like Zed and the roaming potential that it'll open up, kind of abusing the pressure that Morgana is just forced to absorb, they may be able to make a lot of explosive teamfights happen around the 15-minute mark.
Yep, and it's really when it comes to that, you're talking about the 15-minute mark and explosive fights, the teams really enjoy being able to group from both sides. Because you could say that there is pick potential when it's Morgana and Ashe, but that's a Morgana mid lane, and Braum is a little bit slower, and yes, sure, concussive blows can lead into Ashe stacking up those extra auto attacks to get the stuns down, but it's not necessarily the strongest duo, which is why you usually have a Morgana to pick, because she's got the black shield as well for that protective measure. But you need the frontline tankiness of Nasus and Volibear so that Morgana can focus on making sure that the Ashe, the main carry, the main damage dealer of Glacial Galaxy, stays alive when you have a Zed and a Karthus who are just going to be trying to pump damage into that back line and escape the front line of the Nasus and Volibear running through. So look for teleports, especially on these top laners, but maybe even on these mid laners, trying to group with a jungle and bot lane to fight around Drakes or maybe even Rift Heralds.
Yeah, I'd be really hyped for the teleport to be picked up from the Morgana to be able to mitigate the lack of being able to match the Zed that she may have. And actually, we're picking up on the Nasus right here as being locked in for the top lane player. So will be, like you said, quite easily gankable, especially in the early stages of the game. And I'm wondering if Nasus is such an odd pick, something that you don't normally see in these team. What is it? Like in tournament formats, when the teams have all had a chance to prepare, it's more of a solo queue pick. And so I'm wondering, is this a comp where even Ashe and Morgana are going to be looking to enable the Nasus around the mid game if he's able to have a freer lane against the Maokai? And I think that the jungle pathing will tell us a lot about what they choose to do with that matchup.
Exactly, is how much pressure do you want to have on a winning side lane, which Maokai, typically speaking, yes, he can farm, but you don't think about Maokai taking tier 2, tier 3 turrets in that mid game and really split pushing side lanes. He's mostly about grabbing up farm very quickly and then rotating with his team and being the front line tank to also start engages with those ultimates. But Nasus, he can absolutely destroy a side lane. TP's in, 3 hits your Nexus turrets, they go down, Nexus is is open, game is over. These are things that Nasus late game can do. So if Misclick spends a lot of time in that top lane helping Iron Leap's Nasus to not only survive the early game, but actually take an advantage and a lead, it's very possible the Glacial Galaxy doesn't necessarily need to take big 5v5 fights, and instead just try to run God Squad around the rest of the map and keep them distracted long enough for Nasus to hit 400 minions and one-shot Nexus turrets.
Yeah, and if they are able to stall out, and that way the 4-1 potential from Glacial is really powerful. If they can keep Nasus in a side lane, and he is winning that against the Zed, who can also potentially side lane later, I think that that's a really viable win condition for them to continue to tear God Squad apart until the Varus falls off with the lethality, and the Morgana is able to enable the Ashe to deal that consistent damage.
Yep, so looking at God Squad's side, the Zed in the mid lane. Well, actually, before we get too much further, we got 2 minutes. Let's roll through the players and their champions real quick to introduce them, because you talked a lot about the teams, but we need to introduce the players themselves and then get to breaking down God Squad side a little bit. So for Glacial Galaxy, they have themselves Iron Leap with the Nasus in the top lane, Misclicked piloting the Volibear in the jungle, Neptune on the Morgana in the mid lane, Arctic Air with the Ashe on the AD carry role, and the Flaring Fox rounding them out with the Braum as the support.
And for God Squad, we're going to have Maokai in the top lane on C9 World Champ. Karthus is going to be played by You're Mad Cute in the jungle. Zed is going to be played by the almighty Zizovic in the mid lane. And then we're going to have MH Trues 14 and Angelic Baby going together in the bot lane as Varus Lulu.
So now that we've gone through all the players, introduced them, super exciting to see how they all play up against themselves. I've got some questions around this Zed, because if he finds an early advantage against Morgana, he should be able to outplay her Dark Binding, which is a very slow-moving spell. Trust me, I play a lot of Morgana support in the bot lane. It can be pretty easy to dodge out on that one, as well as before her ultimate comes up, she really is very, very limited on options to try to actually catch and kill the Zed. You're gonna have to be heavily reliant on just auto attacks to really try to harass him down with the range advantage, but Zed's got shurikens. My curiosity is if he instead post 6 says, hey, I'm not gonna worry about the Morgana in the mid lane, she can just sit there and farm up all she wants. I instead want to rotate and focus on this bottom lane, shutting down the Ashe, because guess what, Braum, you got a nice wall, you got a nice ultimate, but as long as Zed can dash to some shadows, get behind the Braum, Ashe should be free pickings for this Zed.
I think that's a really good point. I think if there's not some explosive action early and maybe a little bit of disrespect from Zizovic to try and get some kills onto Neptune early, I think that he does end up going to that bot lane, especially because Lulu is going to be such an empowering pick for if Glacial is going to be running at your team. Lulu being able to keep people alive, you want the Lulu Varus to be able to work together in tandem and not have either of them wait for that late game. And so the faster you can get those item spikes going, it's going to benefit your team much more than it would going up the top lane and doing something for the Maokai, for example.
Yeah, is if you can get the Varus, especially in the bot lane, into a bit of a, what I would call a solo point where he can survive by himself because he's got long range of that Q, he can poke from a mile away, he can clear minion waves with a couple of autos and one Q, slice through them all, finish them off. It can make it very easy for him to survive by himself and have a little bit more I'm missing the word on it, but the survivability, basically, at the end of the day, which gives Lulu less of a job of babysitting the Varus, because how is it that Glacial Galaxy is going to get on him? It's just running straight at him, right? Well, Lulu then can be, instead of babysitting Varus from behind enemy lines, trying to protect from assassins, because there are no assassins, she can play a little bit more forward and make sure that she's using that whimsy on the Volibear, on the Nasus, on the people that are just trying to cut through the front line of God Squad.
Absolutely. I am actually just looking at the summoner spells while we're loading in. I was surprised to see Nasus taking Ghost and Exhaust. I think this is a bit of an aggressive choice. Has the summoner spellbook as well, but I think that this is definitely a win lane choice for Lime Leap.
And why is that?
The Ghost Exhaust?
Yeah, but explain to me why it is that you're saying that he's good, because some people may not be able to fully translate. Okay, so exhaust, you exhaust the enemy team, Ghost, he runs fast, but how does that work with a Maokai specifically?
I think that this is a choice with the Ghost and the Summoner Spellbook being able to opt into more aggressive things like the Ignite, even the Teleports to make up for it, without the ability to flash at your opponent, I think this is a choice that says Nasus is deciding when his opponent dies. He's going to be able to get an incredible amount of movement speed, and stickiness, like you were talking about earlier, is so important for the Nasus. And the Exhaust being able to slow down the enemy will just keep him on top of them for an incredible amount of time. I also think it's a really good way for him to be able to turn around potential ganks. You were talking about the Karthus being buffed earlier, and if Karthus isn't doing any damage and is exhausted, he still is rather squishy if the Nasus can get on top of him. And so I think this is just an aggressive choice. He does want to be able to work up to 1v2ing the lane, is what that choice is telling me.
Yeah, so there you go. The stickiness is that huge identity. We do have a little bit of scuffle, level 1 on bottom side river, a couple members kind of poking out at each other and seeing where they can grab a little bit of extra vision. Wards placed very early by the side of God Squad, whereas not quite as heavily invested from Glacial Galaxy, just one into the blue pit. I believe that was the Morgana's ward that was dropped there, but yeah, there he is in the mid lane with the ward on cooldown. Hey, I can actually look and see the cooldowns, but the stickiness from the Nasus, not only does he have the Wither for those extra slows, but also has the Exhaust to pile on top of that. And as you said, if he's getting 2v1, he can do that to each member and basically cut all of their damage so incredibly low, movement speed to nothing. And as you said, because of the stickiness, it says he really wants to be actually killing people, not just surviving and split pushing, which is where you would consider more of like a TP flash and saying, hey, I might die a time or two, but that's okay. I'm going to burn the teleport to get back to lane when you're trying to group with your team and push out here, and I'm going to use the flash to flash away to safety and get back to my turret. So this is, even though it kind of feels weird that it's, okay, it's Exhaust and Ghost, that is actually in a more aggressive spell list if he is looking for those kills.
Yeah, I think it's very much a what we were talking about with God Squad as being a team that plays a lot around their item spikes. I think that's Nasus being able to shut somebody down once he decides that he's powerful. And so if that's something that I'm Leap as a solo player can do quite well and knows the matchup to an extensive amount, then he'll be able to certainly take advantage of the Maokai in the top lane. I do think it's interesting, Karthus started on red side and is clearing all the way down towards the bottom lane, going for the full clear but not starting on blue. Will leave him a little bit low on mana early, and might need some help to clear the blue again, unless he's specifically quite experienced on this.
Also leaves Misclick to be able to come into that top lane. Unfortunately, didn't go through the tri-brush, most likely fearful that a ward was placed, and so was trying to avoid being seen by that Maokai before slipping into that top lane. But just a little bit of rough timing as C9 World Champ, maybe sensing that he had no vision. Junglers should be about that time, 3-minute mark, time to gank, and backs away wisely. So no first blood yet, but Volibear is roaming their way into the mid lane. I'm just gonna grab instead that top side Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, looking at the mid lane here, I'm seeing a lot of poke come down onto the Morgana, so we might see an all-in. There wasn't the teleport taken that we were mentioning from the Morg, instead choosing to go for the Ignite, feeling confident into the Zed, which I think might be a small mistake that we could see punished if too many Electrocute procs go off.
So everyone's chasing your Mad Cute if you're the side of Glacial Galaxy, trying to shove this Karthus out. Scuttle Crab will be stolen away by your Mad Cute. Gets it for the side of God Squad. Spicy Skittle drop with the Q, stealing it right out of the hands of Glacial Galaxy, and now some little bit of pressure as Mutsu are gonna get some damage down. Unbreakable wall from the Braum. He's whimsy though. Lulu's still in a bit of trouble. Angelic Baby might be going down. Flashes away. The heal comes out from the Varus, trying to keep her alive. The exhaust slowing him down. The stun's gonna come through. Concussive blows stacking up. Flaring Fox having to flash. The flash from the Varus, trying to get the Q onto both members. He's got some slows, but I don't think it's gonna be enough. Arctic Air might be able to escape this. Yermag Cute coming in with the blue buff, but a little bit too late. Doesn't get the autos down. And look at the spell list. Everything but the Varus cleanse burned, and no first blood yet.
Ooh, that was really scary for both teams at different points there in that long extended fight. What I am concerned about now, though, with what you were talking about with all the spells being blown, I think this definitely benefits Misclicked on the Volibear, who does have the onus on him to make a lot of these ganks happen, since Karthus isn't really the type of jungler to be walking into your lane early. I think that with all the flashes blown and even the heal from the Lulu, just being able to prey on her specifically might be something that they can look to exploit going into, let's say, 2-3 minutes from now.
Yep, especially as, keep in mind, those ultimates are not that far off. It's a level 4 Volibear trying to gank at the top lane once again. Misclick about half health though, so not super tanky at this point. Turret shot gonna come through. Nasus trying to get the last Q, but Maokai safely underneath the turret. C9 World Champ gets out alive.
Yeah, we'll be hitting 6 soon on the Nasus as well. So could look for, if the Maokai stays, a potential dive since he will have the Q resets, but is going to need enough mana to do so. Right now, all the CS is relatively even in the lanes, though, so even with the harass that the Zed has been able to push down, hasn't been able to find too much of an advantage yet. The only real advantage has been in the bot side so far, with about a 10 CS lead for the Varus.
Which is really, really spicy that the bottom lane is where things are at for God Squad especially, because when we talked about the teams, we said grouping team fights were going to be where we should see some power based off of the actual picks, but now that we're in game and seeing that more solo focus, I want to win my own lane, Nasus, excuse me, from I Am Leap, as well as that Ignite Flash from Neptune says I really want to be winning my own lane. I don't necessarily am playing the defensive Morgana. You can see she started off with a blasting one. That says, look, I don't really care about supporting the ADC. I'm here for me. I want to get kills. This is basically the support that runs Luxor brand, right?
Yeah.
The only way to protect my ADC is to kill the enemy so they can't kill my ADC. So with that being said, clearly Glacial Galaxy is not as concerned about this kind of early game grouping, though they do seem to be rotating a lot of members into this bottom lane. I don't think they're going to actually find any kills and may just have to start up Drake on a ward. Keep that in mind, God Squad's ward. They're just outside of that control ward from Glacial.
And I wonder if they choose to contest this. I don't think that they will, as we see it being taken down, and Karthus is just hanging out on the top side. Zed should be able to get some turret plates, and he backed on the serrated Dirk. No boots just yet for the roaming, so I think that he might be looking to get more advantages in this lane than he is anywhere else, especially with the offensive item choice coming from the Morgana. I think she could be at risk.
Yep, and so just needs to play a little bit safe, especially as these ultimates are coming through. You have the level 6 on Zizavek now, the Zed, so definitely an opportune moment to try to use that ultimate before the enemy team really has a chance to respond. This is a level 4 Braum walking into 2 because Misclicked is here as well, but keep in mind the TP coming in from the Maokai. He's level 7, throws out that ultimate. It's going to go across the wall, but the Varus is already going down. Lulu might not be able to escape, throws out the Q. It's still going to go down. Karthus ultimate coming in just when you thought you had the chance to escape. You flash, and Misclick does actually get out. World Champ still on the chase, maybe going to go in onto Arctic Air as the Ashe has been slowed down. There are some minions between her and the turret. She cannot escape. She will fall. Arctic Air might be just going down to the saplings. Nope, there it is. The Q comes out. Another kill to God Squad, but it is 3-2 overall in favor of Glacial.
Yeah, Sapling giving a little bit of a mental edge, perhaps, to the Maokai, but other than that, I actually thought that that was a really good, nice, proactive play from Glacial. They get a lot out of C9 in terms of the teleport. It'll give the Nasus a good amount of time to be able to farm in the top side and get those stacks going, and also having 2 kills on your Maokai isn't super important. I think what is more important, especially for the side of Glacial, is being able to use that Volibear to get them the advantages in these lanes, even if they are going to be mitigated. Now, however, what concerns me is because that fight was happening while there was a minion wave there, if we look at the bot lane, it's 69 CS to 32 on the bot side. And that Varus is feeling good.
Yeah, it's super, super painful. When you look at the total gold between the two teams, 300 gold doesn't seem that much. But keep in mind, it's not necessarily the straight raw gold. It's also when you complete those items. Zed ganking the bottom lane. He's got the Ignite. Flaring Fox immediately dropping. Squashed by his own sugar cookie in the bot lane. Will go down. So that's Zizavek roaming into the bottom lane. Didn't even worry about trying to give assists to his team. Focusing instead on grabbing the kill, getting out, and going back to mid.
Yeah, finally invested in those boots. Didn't feel like he was going to get a lot done in the mid lane, and instead chose to capitalize on the bot lane that's already significantly behind. And it's turning into a little bit of a 4v5 here, where being able to just take one person out of the equation, even though Nasus isn't going to be as team fight useful as the rest, or as a lot of other top laners that might be tanks.
But hold on, we got another fight going on as the Varus has been stunned up, but keep in mind he burned the flash, trying to chase it. He throws out the Q! Are you kidding me? Sniping down Arctic Air after burning ult and flash. to get the flash out of the Ashe. He then snipes her down as she tries to escape back to the turret. Braum still, though, stepping forward aggressively. Ult from Neptune. Sorry, that Whimsy not going to stop the ultimate from coming through, so flash force out from Angelic Baby to avoid getting stunned up. Everyone is here. Ultimate from Misclicked as well, jumping in, but You're Mad Cute already taking down the Morgana, and it is more kills going over the God Squad as they clean up after a lot of scuffling in the bottom lane.
And so many resources invested now from the side of Glacial to try and make up the play in the bot side, and I feel like they're just trying to patch holes around this bottom side. And honestly, I think that at this point you can just rotate the Nasus down and try to get, what is it? As much as he won't be getting ahead of the Maokai, at least your bot lane will be able to catch up and be relevant in the later game teamfights, because right now they're just not players.
Yeah, 40 CS down on this Ashe. That is massive. Arctic Air having a struggle of a game. And now keep in mind, Glacial Galaxy, this is not their typical ADC. He has subbed in, so this may be a team that is trying out a new player saying, hey, we feel good giving this guy a shot, and it is just not working out in this particular game. But a lot of that, I would say, is God Squad saying, hey, okay, if you're going to have a sub in that bottom lane, let's put all the pressure on them. Let us break your ADC by ganking over and over. This has been a Karthus, a Zed, a Karthus several times over. I'm leaping the top lane, forcing CM World Champ about halfway back. Go ahead, sorry, I missed what you said.
No, I was just pointing out that the two summoner spells dropped by I'm Leap there was what we talked about as the You're Gonna Die button, and C9 World Champ living through that. I think spells, maybe not disaster, but even more inconvenience for the side of God Squad.
Yeah, for I'm Leap, he doesn't have any major items yet, no Trinity Force to speak of, doesn't even have his tier 1 boots, so Ghost may be effective, give him a little speed boost, but he doesn't even have normal speed boost. There's an ultimate, though, from both the Karthus and the Morgana, finds the stun, Ignite taking away Zizeffect, very close to going down, and Misclick gonna walk on and see if we'll actually find the kill as Zed hops over the wall with the Shadow Jump, but the Varus sniping out Arctic Air once again, a little 1v1 between the ADCs. Unfortunately, Dark Binding's gonna miss onto Angelic Baby, ult out from Braum, but that's just to disengage and back away as they were maybe rotating over for that Drake. The Varus coming up as well to visit, decides to go back to lane and keep out farming this Ashe on a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, really funny series of plays there. Actually ends up just getting the bot lane further ahead, even though it starts as a mid fight, having the Varus there.
Yeah, Misclick comes in, finds the stun with the Varus with the Wild Growth, going to give him a lot of extra health, and he's going to be bounced right back up to nearly full. Even with Misclick using the Stormbringer, it is mostly to run away, get back to that turn in the bot lane, sitting at 3 plates, and those are about to fall very soon.
Yes, starting as a 2v1 for the Varus there, as he was trying to go up against both the Braum and the Volibear, but once the Lulu comes onto him, there's really nothing that he can do. Zizeffect staying around the mid lane at an incredibly low health bar is a little bit disrespectful perhaps of the Morgana here.
All it takes is one solid Dark Binding from Neptune, should be able to find that kill, but might be actually trying to bait Neptune in, because there is a Lulu that is visiting as well. Angelic Baby just going to drop by, say hi, and Zizeffect try to clear up this minion wave to keep that fairly even. Keep the turret plate alive for another 30 seconds, and those plates go down. You take a lot of gold out of Neptune's potential hands.
And we see the Lulu actually building towards the Ardent Sensor is going to be very Varus focused. As the Ardent Sensor benefiting mainly him, not so much attack speed coming in from any of the other players, whereas the Athenes would be more of like the team comp as a whole, like, oh, I'm going to heal everybody, everybody's going to be fine. I think that this item choice signifies like a holistic their team committing to Varus being their win condition. They're not trying to play through mid as much as mid is a pressure point. It is going to be all about Varus until Karthus can really start taking down the bombs.
Ooh, Lulu speeding the Varus forward. Fortunately for them, Glacial decided not to actually re-engage this. C9 World Champ coming up from the bottom side. Could have been a collective 5v3 as the Volibear misclicked. A little bit slow to run down that top river, and Nasus had just recalled. And where you were talking about Nasus maybe swapping lanes to deal with that Varus and just focus on farming, they're going to be swapped up regardless, because Varus and Lulu sent to the top lane, get some pressure up there, get some vision as well to go for the Rift Herald, the next major objective on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, and I think that just having the Varus and Lulu that you can just use as mobile pressure points on this map is super valuable right now. And it's really the only thing they have to worry about at this point. Since you're building the attack speed Varus, I'm not really as concerned about the scaling for God Squad anymore, and I think they can play this pretty slow and controlled even. World Champ, as long as he's able to continue side laning against that Nasus, there's not really anything that they're worried about scaling.
Yep, it's just take time for God Squad. Give it just a small. You're not necessarily like pedal to the metal to drive this straight into the enemy team. Rush. It's more like just a gradual rolling down the hill, just collecting speed, a little bit here, a little bit there. 3,000 gold. Let's just slowly scale that to 5,000 gold. And Glacial Galaxy, they need to do something. They need to either group to try to fight, grab a pick, or maybe even commit to bringing this Nasus out of the side lane. They're going to commit to a fight in the top side. Veram ultimate, finding the knockup. There's a group fight as Lulu was not around to save the Varus. And Zizavek stealing away the kill from Karthus, saying, no, Karthus, this is my kill in the mid lane.
Ooh, that was a really nice play from Zizavik, and countered by that really nice play from the team of Glacial in the top lane to find that pick and the shutdown onto the Varus. But not being able to really convert that into any objectives is going to cost them. Again, I'm Leap pressing all of his buttons, but not able to find the kill onto World Champ.
I didn't even think about the fact that his ghost literally outruns the Maokai ultimate, because that is just so slow. He could just say, hey, as long as you don't get rooted up, I'm just going to run right around it. So an escape mechanism if necessary, but an engage tool is what he wants to do later on. You can see he's already got 2 pieces of that Trinity Force, so it's still looking to scale up as that split pusher there. With all that pressure, though, from the top side, Varus going down, does mean Rift Herald to the side of Glacial Galaxy and misclick, realizing they may be caught out. Stormbreaker trying to escape, flashing the wall, the heal from Arctic Air, keeping misclicked alive. The Volibear escapes.
Made it in a little bit there. It does have to burn the flash, which will mean even more safety for the Varus coming up. We have, let's see, where's our Dragon Timer? 57 seconds until next Ocean Drake, and I expect that's going to be all God Squad all day, as they should be able to put a lot of pressure on this mid tower and maybe break it before that happens.
Well, keep in mind, though, nice little dark finding there onto the Lulu, dropping her health down to about 300, has to use the wild growth on herself to make sure she doesn't go down. That is huge. Less protection for the Varus, and exactly one of those small ingredients that Glacial Galaxy needs to be doing to find a recipe for success is making sure to burn these protective spells on that carry. You're talking about the all-in on Varus being this carry. Well, as long as you're taking away those protections, the heal, the shields, the ultimates, you can make it a lot easier for that Varus to be taken down later.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of this Varus, I did want to bring this up at the start of the game as we might have a fight.
Yeah, Flaring Fox probably going to go down here, throws out that ultimate, trying to catch out that Varus, as we're talking about ultimate from Morgana, going to lock him up. They find the root, but can they actually find the kill? Everyone, the Volibear was hoping to get within range, but caught out by the constant CC of God Squad.
The lifesteal from the Varus is so important there, as he almost goes down to the pool from the Morgana. Now they'll be able to rotate onto this Drake, and just 2 Drakes now, so we're still pretty far from Soul Point, but the game's looking like it's convincingly going in God Squad's favor.
Yeah, you were talking about rotate mid, grab the turret, then rotate, get the Drake. Well, or you can bait them into a fight, and the Glacial Galaxy stick their neck out just a little bit too far, and it's the Flaring Fox, the one caught out in that little jungle encampment and sent back to the fountain, and taking 2 members of his own team with him, 3-0, plus the Drake lead for God Squad, scales them to now a 4,000 gold lead, which honestly isn't that much larger than they had about 5 to 10 minutes ago, or about maybe 7 minutes ago. So the gold lead hasn't accelerated, but Nasus using his ultimate in the top lane. Look at the massive Q. That's the Wither empowerment. That's the you are dead trigger. Drops the exhaust, drops the Zed.
3rd time's the charm, finally presses the Ghost Ignite and will end up taking down the Zed there, which is really, really good news for the side of Glacial Galaxy. It does mean that their side lane is starting to become empowered, and Zed not having the Black Cleaver or anything to start taking down this Nasus to any significant degree, will just start losing that lane, and the 4-1 could really start to come online if they can get the farm onto this Ashe, keep her relevant. They might be able to find a way back into this game.
Yep, as it was said from the chat, nobody knows. Zed thought that he was a champion. He was feeling really good, great assassin, and then he tries to assassinate a brick wall of the Nasus that just slaps him down with a pimp cane. Get out of here, son. This is my lane. And solos out that kill. He also has finished off that Trinity Force, so as you said, now much more dangerous in the side lane. Needs to continue to scale that up, though, and we'll see how many more kills God Squad wants to give him. In the bot lane, Morgana doing a little split pushing there, trying to escape the Zed, but it's distraction for the mid lane to go down, and Glacial Galaxy actually take a turret lead as they've been able to really run God Squad around the map.
And I'm really surprised that Zizovic hasn't been able to find more picks onto Neptune. She hasn't been building that many resists, but just really good play from the Morgana to keep the Zed at bay, using her ultimate when she needs to just keep him at a, what's it called, arm's length, and abusing the fact that he is a melee champion. Really good play from her, and a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more deaths out of the Morgana.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a little bit of lazy play from Zizovek, and it could just be lack of comfortability on the Zed. It's very different than a Cassiopeia who shotgun spells the enemy team. But this is a slippery champion. There should be no reason you're getting caught by a Morgana ultimate. You step into range, Morgana drops the ultimate, you just shadow dance out, it's immediately broken, and guess what? You're done. That's it, you know, she doesn't have that ultimate anymore, as well as just sidestepping the Dark Binding. That's the only two crowd controls that Morgana has. So we'll see if Zizovet can finally find another solo kill onto this Morgana, as you said, building Luden's Echo, focusing on just pure all-out, unadulterated damage. But with that Rift Herald dropped in the mid lane, probably just timed out, it gives a little bit more time for God Squad to just continue to kind of scale up, grab more farm, get this Varus and this Karthus into a position where they can kind of solo kill or duo kill the rest of the enemy team. Small fight starting up. The Volibear actually ulting out. Maokai's here, caught underneath the turret for just a moment, trying to grab his way out, and now the Karthus and the Morgana trying to root up two members. Angelic Baby dropped incredibly low. She was on the Tormented Soil for too long, goes down. Karthus ultimate coming through. Goodbye to the Braum. Misclinked at 300 health, but she's able to drop the shield and get out alive. But this should be at least one turret in the mid lane, dropping maybe two for God Squad.
And yeah, just on 2 items for the Karthus isn't doing too much damage yet, but the cleanup there so important for him. Zizovic will end up taking down the Ashe, but trades his own life for it there with the stun.
That was incredibly close. It was almost Arctic Air escaping, but unfortunately that heal not quite enough health to be able to survive, and so ends up you're trading your assassin for your ADC, which at the end of the day is not horrible, but it's a Zed. Again, this is not what he's supposed to be doing. He is a get in, get out type of champion, and he goes down. And a lot of this stuff, keep in mind, is giving shutdown gold over to the enemy team. You look at the Zed, you look at the Varus, what are they? They have no bounties because they're dying even in the process of getting all these kills. The Karthus is going to eventually go down because that's kind of how he's made, is to get into the middle of the enemy team fight, die, and then kill your whole team. So that shutdown gold is going to go the way of Glacial Galaxy, and that's what's keeping them in the game because they're still only 4,000 gold behind for the last 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that we were feeling really good about Glacial's chances of coming back into the game, and that team fight, I think, was just one where they weren't able to make Varus feel any pressure at all, didn't even burn the cleanse or the flash that fight, was just able to kite out around the sides, and there's going to need to be a little bit more coordination on the side as there goes Ashe.
Well, yep, Ashe is gone. Neptune goes gold with the stopwatch for just a moment. Over the wall, the attempt from Volibear to steal that dragon away, but now they're just inting themselves into God Squad's face, and yeah, they can go straight on to Baron after picking up 3 kills and the enemy team jungler. So Glacial Galaxy, a bit miscoordinated, not expecting Zizovic to do that much damage to their ADC.
Yeah, Nasus here has the most farm in the game, but even with all of that, I don't think that he's going to be able to stop this Baron. This is probably the final nail in the coffin, I think, for Glacial. If this Baron is able to come through, they're not going to be able to clear waves against this.
Yeah, I'm Lee. I think you're incredibly strong, my guy, but I don't think you're 1v5 strong, at least not yet. And with that Baron going the way of God Squad, uncontested, really, that means that God Squad, all they have to do is not make any major mistakes, and they can win this game. Question is, can they get away without making any mistakes to finish the game off?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Varus here. It does have the flash, does have the cleanse. It's going to take an incredible play from Glacial to punish to punish him to an extent where he is pushed out of a fight. The Morgana does have a lot of damage, but also, interestingly enough, with the Ardent Censer and the Blade of the Ruin King, I'm not seeing any grievous wounds coming out, which is fair enough. There's not an immense amount of healing on this team, but you are going to need to take down that Varus somehow, and if he's able to even just artillery the front line, has the Gwynsus now, and we'll be getting the Runin's Hurricane next, I expect, to be able to just tear through a bunch of people. That's going to be a lot of healing, and you're going to want to negate it.
Yep, and you look as well into the Lulu's inventory. She's got that Mikkel's Crucible, so hey, even if you land that crowd control onto the Varus, he not only has his own cleanse, but he also can have that Lulu's Mikkel's Crucible to survive for even longer. So it's all about, can they jump on him? I think the Bullet might be able to find him with that Dark Binding. Ash Arrow in as well, the only son of the Maokai. That's that front line, the tankiness from God Squad. Everyone's trying to jump on in. Nasus flashing forward, not even flashing, he's just ghosting in. They've shut down the Maokai. They've got the front line, but nobody's looked into the Varus just yet. Ash just sitting point blank. Bow versus bow, but the one with the support wins. It's a triple for the Varus.
Oh, that was exactly the power play that they needed from the Varus. They do burn everything to keep him alive, but it is so worth it in the end as he just machine guns through everybody, chews through the front line of Glacial, and then gets to walk straight up onto the Ash in an honorable 1v1.
Well, it became quite a little less than a 1v1, especially with Lulu and Karthus still alive, and Karthus Ultimate raining death from above. So a little bit less than that, but still, top lane inhibitor going to fall, going the way of God Squad. Bot lane turret fell as Varus is having, or sorry, Zed having a little fun 1v1 with I'm Leap. The Baron up minions actually chunking away this Nasus bit by bit, and Zed's got the burst coming through as well. Morgana steps forward with the Tormented Soil Lance, the Dark Binding. We'll see if Misclick can actually finish off this Zed. He's got Flash and speeding his way up. The Lightning's a bit late to come down. Zed's shadow dancing away with the Living Shadow. Gets himself out as well. And God Squad just seem unstoppable once again.
And walking into the Dark Binding there, throwing out the emote, I think that Zizovic knows that this game is as much theirs as he doesn't need to be worried about it anymore. The Varus now is basically unkillable, has 8-2 and 8, now is certainly worthy of shutdown gold at 550, not even as much as the Karthus though, who importantly has the most farm in the game by only 3 over the Nasus, but we haven't seen this Nasus actually do anything.
Well, he got a solo kill against Zed, and then God Squad said, alright, well, ignore him and kill everyone else. And unfortunately, has not ignored his team, trying to just focus on split pushing because he really needs to be there to be a tank for his team and join with the Varus, using that Wither to slow down the Varus' auto attacks. But if he's not there, his entire team dies. If he is there, his team dies anyway, just a little bit slower.
Yeah, and right now, talking about the win condition that's kind of been simmering in the background, the Karthus now is 20 stacks on his Mejai's, 3 items, I guess, with the Mejai's 4, let's call Mejai's and Boots 4-5. He's getting up there and only has 1 more item slot to fill before I expect he sells the Mejai's for something that gives him a little more IP.
Hey, why do you even need to do that? Sell the boots, because clearly you're not actually interested in trying to chase anyone down. You are just there for backup support to drop a massive ultimate onto anyone, the entire enemy team. And, basically as long as you have the Requiem, you should be alright. Zizivek just, again, dashing away, escaping, again, being incredibly annoying, and mostly making sure that Glacial cannot get out of their own base to try to ward up around this Drake, which is the Ocean Soul for God Squad.
Yeah, this is something we've all seen in our own games where you know that you have to contest for that soul, but you just can't do it. If they fight that fight right there, they lose instantly, and I think that right now they're just trying to draw the game out and pray that God Squad make a mistake here.
Yeah, their hope is to basically survive for another 10 minutes for Nasus to truly become unstoppable. Keep in mind, he only has that Trinity Force and Sterix gauge. That is it. He does not have an inventory full of items. Despite having a ton of minions and a good bit of gold, he just isn't able to... Goodbye, Morgana. Ash, you're quick to follow if Zed gets his ultimate back here. And, yeah, that's what Zed can do when he's super fed.
Yeah, and, I mean, Ash Arrow is still up, but isn't going to be able to catch anybody. The ADC positioning rather well on the side of God Squad, isn't opening himself up to a lot, and even if they did, still has the Lulu, still has the cleanse. Like you were talking about the Mikhails, is where did that Braum go? It's going to be perhaps the end of the game here if they choose to push this.
Yeah, God Squad's playing a fun little game of now you see them, now you don't, as they are trying to focus on bursting everyone down as quick as possible. Ash gonna try to go next. She flashes the heals, gets onto the fountain, just gonna try to play supportive role as she's throwing out a couple of those volleys. But again, you can't tear through the God Squad's front line, even with Morgana respawning. Look at everyone just focusing down this Maokai. All he has to do is just tap a minion and he's sent back to full health. Plus has the Ocean Soul to just keep healing him. Flashes away from the turret to let the minions finish off the Nexus. And God Squad take game 1 in classy style.
That it was a convincing victory from God Squad, who we did see a lot of last week. I think I expected a little bit more from Glacial going into this game, since they had gone 3-0 last week, but just not able to stand up to what I'll call a really oppressive gameplay from the entire squad.
Yeah, the God Squad team, across the board, I would say, is that they knew where they wanted to focus that kind of pressure point, and that was that Ashe in the bottom lane. They brought a lot of attention into the bottom lane, ganking with the jungler. You ask, hey, or at the beginning of the entire series, let's focus on the junglers, see where does the junglers go, and how often they're sent to the top lane to kind of see if they can stop this Nasus pushing or get Nasus pushing faster. And you're mad cute. Never even worried about top lane. Did they gank at all? No, it was a leave Sidon world champ on his own island to deal with himself and focus on trying to deal with I'm Leap. I'm going to focus instead on farming super hard and helping this bot lane kill Arctic Air over and over again.
Yeah, that was really nice play from God Squad to be able to just trust C9 to be able to do his own thing in the top side. He did play really safe, even seeing Misclick to try and gank him a few times in the early stages of the game. Wasn't able to find anything. He was always playing really far back, but even his CS numbers, like, they aren't irrelevant when compared to the Nasus, who was split pushing the whole time. C9 was able to keep up relatively even, and it was really in the bot lane unexpectedly that we saw that discrepancy open up. Even without ganks, they were doing rather well, stacking up 10 CS leads, and once ganks started coming in, once teamfights started happening with the Lulu Varus and the attack speed, it started snowballing for them, and it couldn't be stopped.
Yep, it's definitely a rough time for Glacial Galaxy. They do lose out in this game number 1, but they still had some glimmers of hope, and they still looked good. We'll let the analyst desk take over discussing this game, but right now we're going to go to a brief intermission and be back with a big announcement for XLNC. Don't touch that browser, not only because we got game 2 coming up here in just a moment, but also an announcement from myself, Jake Kelton. It's been me and Dietrop on the desk. We'll be right back with game number